This is the Boys Podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with episode 7 of Diabolical, talking about Boyd in 3D. Welcome back, fellow boys and girls, to our discussions about The Boys Diabolical. This time we're talking about episode 7, Boyd in 3D. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls. Yes, I'm one of your other hosts, John.
Do you know, I thought because this is an animated show and the episode is called Boyd in 3D, that I absolutely thought this was going to be 3D animation.
Yes, me too. Yeah. I thought it was going to need the old red and blue specs.
Well, at least the character models I thought were going to be in 3D animation. Not necessarily that it would be coming out of the screen at me, but I was quite surprised that the 3D here is a reference to his apartment number.
Yes, exactly.
I guess that makes more sense.
And with Cherry being in 3G.
Yes, exactly. We have now gotten up to the penultimate episode of our coverage of The Boys Diabolical. We're up to the 7th episode of the show. If you haven't been subscribing to the podcast so far, you can subscribe to it still. All of our coverage of The Boys, Invincible, and the upcoming Boys Season 3 will all be available on one podcast, which is the Boys Podcast from TV Podcast Industries. Or if you want to keep connected with all the stuff we're covering, you can subscribe to the podcast on TV Podcast Industries. All the shows that we've been covering for the last 7 years of podcasting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Please support the podcast in any which way you can. Of course, sharing the podcast with friends, relatives, you name it, is very much appreciated. Mm-hmm. Sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the love. We're also over on Patreon at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries and over on Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TVPI. Yeah. Any donation to help support the podcast is also very much appreciated, but any support that our fellow boys and girls provide is super duper.
Absolutely. And something else we'd love from you is to hear your thoughts about the episodes. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with thoughts about any of the episodes of any of the shows that we cover, or you can pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, and you can join the discussion over there about each of the shows we're covering as well.
Yep. Derek, what are some of the episode details for Boyd in 3D?
Well, the animation style for this episode says it's inspired by French comics and animation. I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that.
Very cool. Written by Eliot Glazer. He was a writer and executive producer on many, many comedies, including New Girl. So, so that's quite cool. I can kind of see where they would get the concept of this from this writer, from Eliot Glazer. The episode was directed by Naz Ghodrati-Azadi. She started as a storyboard artist for loads of DC animated TV shows and has continued in animated TV all the way up to some spin-offs of major movies like Trolls and Madagascar. She's been involved in the animation and direction of those shows as well. So really interesting that she's moved that style over to this kind of French animation style. It's very different to the kind of stuff that she's been doing over the years, but really interesting. John, do you want to give us your one-ish line synopsis for this episode?
Sure. A whirlwind transformation after using an experimental Vought beauty cream leads to a whirlwind romance between Boyd in 3D and cat-loving neighbour Cherry in 3G. But when it ends badly.
A little bit of a commentary on celebrity culture and Instagramming. Definitely. And filters and people's perception of themselves. I really liked this as a concept for an episode. I think it was executed really well right up until the final minute twist. Really liked it.
Yeah. Well, I loved the final minute twist as well. I thought this was a real good return to form for this series. After sort of BFFs. Mm-hmm. And as you say, it's a commentary on the whirlwind of a public facing social media orientated romance, but also in terms of the pressure to have perfect bodies, and not being comfortable in your own skin. You know, you have Cherry, who doesn't like her freckles. Mm-hmm. Boyd thinks he's an inadequate physique, and hasn't the courage to ask Cherry out when he's as he is at the start and requires this quick fix transformation. I guess it's also that commentary on the quick fix transformation along the lines of, you know, sort of diet pills or whatever that may or may not do the work that they advertise. So there is also that. And of course, the beauty cream that he uses as this experimental beauty cream works a treat. You know, he gets his pecs, he gets his biceps, he gets the good looks, the sharper, more chiseled features. So it's not just a beauty cream in terms of moisturizing your skin. I mean, this is whole body transformation beauty cream.
And in one particularly funny scene, it shows quite specifically that it is entire body.
Yes, exactly. It hits the parts that some beers can't refresh.
There you go, John. There you go.
If you want to say that. And, you know, as a result of this transformation, this self-confidence, he is able to ask Cherry out. And, I mean, it's important to state, you know, Boyd, before the transformation, loves Cherry. He wants to get to know her with possibility asking her out, you know?
I kind of like the idea at the start that he's got this letter that's addressed to her that's come to his apartment. He's going, oh, finally I have an excuse now that I can at least go and talk to this girl that I've been seeing her come home from dates with guys and breaking up with them every day or every week basically. And he's going, okay, I have an opportunity here. I can actually do this. They have a nice funny comedy moment where he falls over inside his door when he's supposed to be speaking to her. So and he shamefully pulls himself back in before she sees him. And that's kind of the impetus for him to go to Vought. He's using the app where he's doing reface to look like each of the members of the seven. And there's a great gag in there about translucent. So when it goes through this scrolling of him as A-Train or him as Homelander, and it also shows him as translucent as just a blank screen on the phone. I thought that was a good little gag.
No, that was a good gag.
But of course, in this world owned by Vought Marketing, you can't just use a reface app in front of you. It kind of sees, well, you're trying to do something for yourself. If you click this button here, you can join our trial and look like Homelander if you want.
Exactly. But the cream as well isn't that you just put it on and that's what it does. It requires the individual to imagine their inner self. So this is the projection of what Boyd wants to do, because he's awkward, he's a little nerdy, say he doesn't feel attractive, that he's got the best kind of physique. And so he wants to imagine his inner self, or ultimately it's his rub of the genie bottle. What do I want to become? Ultimately is what they're asking him to say. And of course, Cherry finds the cream after they've started dating and going out and being the talk of the town, and turns into a pussycat because she loves cats, and that's what she imagined her inner self to be.
Well, effectively, yeah. Well, as kind of a cat woman, that's how she sees her inner self is as, you know, this mix of cat and woman, effectively. But one of the things I wasn't really sure about, and I don't think it even matters by the end of the episode, but one thing I wasn't sure about was this gradual build-up of the two of them as being a celebrity couple. The fact that Boyd has turned himself to look like Homelander, do people around them think he is Homelander and this is his new girlfriend? Is that what we're to expect? Now, again, by the end of the episode, let's take the final twist out of it. So, are they seeing Homelander there with his new girlfriend, and that's why everybody is suddenly wanting to follow him?
No, I don't think so. I think he's Homelander-esque. I don't think if they had in the same animation style Homelander there, I don't think it would be an exact copy.
Right.
I think it's Homelander-like. And you do hear that Vought has also been promoting them because, of course, using the cream. And so ultimately they become this hot new couple, plus the intrigue because she's got a tail, whiskers, and cat ears for real. So this hot new couple, they build, you get the montage of them building their social media, 3, 4, 5 million followers, that kind of stuff. You see the montage of them getting rich as they move out of the apartment into bigger and bigger houses with bigger and bigger cars. And I actually really like the moment where, they've moved into a huge detached villa that they've got their own pool. They're both lying on inflatables in the pool, like you see if you're on holiday.
Yeah.
And over on the side of the pool are their two phones. Mm-hmm. And whilst they're away from their phones in the middle of the pool, there's all these emoticons and emojis coming off the phone, all positive ones.
Yeah.
Because it's still all going on, even when they're just relaxing and have taken themselves out of that for that moment. And then as soon as they get out of the pool, they're back on looking at it and so on. So I really liked that little scene, or the montage of them becoming this celebrity online social media couple. And then you get the crash.
And that is, in fact, the moment that it crashes, because they are at the zenith. They are at the point where they've made all the money out of it. They've made this massive, they've got this massive mansion. They're having the life. And it's when Boyd tells her, could you just pass my phone to me for a minute? When they're in this idyllic situation in the pool where both of them are really enjoying themselves. That's the moment when he breaks it, because from then on, you see every one of their dates. She's on her phone. He's on his phone all the time. They're dealing with their phone more than each other. And that's how their relationship eventually breaks down. They become more and more distant from each other.
Yeah, it's the classic of the only way is down, ultimately, once you've reached the top.
Yes.
And yeah, they become more distant, and that means they start getting interested in other people. Both find out about the other person's extracurricular activities, and it suddenly starts to public fighting, and then you see the reverse side of it of the unfollows happening, and then eventually you get to the situation where Vought pull them in, and that's where they say, well, we're not promoting you anymore because you've lost the mojo. The mojo has gone here, and how much of this stuff have they been using? And at the start, it's all about you must use it carefully and ration it, and they're applying it all the time to maintain this physical look for the money, for the popularity and the publicity.
And then when they run out of everything and go back to their normal selves, you kind of see it being rekindled again. You see Boyd looking at Cherry and kind of going, I love your freckles. I love who you are as this. And then the twist comes in.
Yes, which is great.
The twist that this is all happening while he's in the chair, hoping that this will make him look the way he wants to look. But actually, it makes his head explode.
Yeah, it's a longing. You suddenly think as the audience that they're back to who they were. Now that all that prying, all that pressure to constantly be in the limelight has gone. But it then just cuts away from that immediately. And he's in a chair in the laboratory at Vought where he's turned into a waif of a man. It's not even that he's gone back to... His nose is bigger. His skin is sagging. And the two scientists are asking, how much of this did you use? And then his head explodes. Yeah. And from the compound V.
Exactly.
So I thought this was just really, really good. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved how it was written really well, structured, really well put together. And again,
it had a flow to it. It felt almost musical a bit.
Yeah.
It just, it had a rhythm to it that was really, really snappy and made sense. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good entry into this series, and good to see some of the people coming back for this episode. Colby Minifie, who was the assistant in the first season of The Boys and a bit of the second season. Good to see her back in here reprising that role as the PR executive for Vought, telling them that's it, they're out. That was really interesting to see her in there. Really good to see Kumail Nanjiani in the episode, or hear Kumail Nanjiani as the Doctor in this episode.
One of the
such
scientists,
a recognisable voice. Also from Marvel's Eternals, as we saw him earlier on this year as well. So yeah, really, really fun to have him in there. But I loved the structure of the story this time. This was a really well put together story. Another one of my favourites, I think, for this season.
Me too. I'd give this 4.5 Terra licking camera lenses out of 5.
Very good.
I really, really enjoyed it. As I say, it almost felt musical. It felt like a tragic musical. Just really well paced.
Yeah.
The flow and the rhythm of the feeling insignificant to being on top of the world to that crash to then a absolute tragedy because he's overdosed on this experimental cream, effectively.
Interesting. Okay, let's put this to bed. Make sure we're both on the same page as we close out our episode 7 coverage. So, did this happen or did it not happen at all? Because I took it that this was all happening in his mind while he was being given the treatment, the initial treatment, and then his head exploded. So I thought none of this had happened. Interesting. So you think the opposite?
So I think all of this happened with the exception of that longing piece where it's almost a wish in the end that it was back to how it was before. And then it cut immedately to he's taken too much of it through this journey in order to maintain that. And the side effects on this one is that your head may explode.
Very good. Okay, so I think Eliot Glazer, who wrote the episode, has done something even more impressive then. I think he's actually captured the essence of Total Recall, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Or the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie probably more so than the remake, but that's the one that everybody always wonders, did it all take place in the mind of that major character from the moment he gets into the chair and to the end? Is that all imaginary or did it all happen? So interesting, we're both on opposite sides of that story. Yes. So yeah, very good. Good job, Eliot Glazer. Even better having talked about it.
Definitely.
You also mentioned that the episode kind of felt like a musical in there. So I have to call out that it does have Dua Lipa's Levitating, one of my favourite songs of the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really good song. Yeah. Loved how it was cut into the episode when they're going on all their amazing dates. Thought that was really cool. So there you go. That's my last note for the episode. Anything else from you, John?
No, nothing else from myself.
Well, tell us what side of the coin you're on as to how this episode played out for you. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with any thoughts that you have on episode 7 or any of the other episodes of The Boys Diabolical.
Yeah, thank you so much, fellow boys and girls, for joining us for episode 7. We'll be back with the last and final episode 1 + 1 = 2. Thanks so much for joining us and speak with you again shortly. Bye.